Welcome to the People Relations Podcast, the podcast series brought to you by People Relations HR Consulting, where we talk with business and HR leaders around the globe. In each episode, we will discuss exclusive insights, strategies, and advice to help you make better people decisions in your business. For show notes and incredible bonus resources, simply visit www.peoplerelations.com.au. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have you along. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today with Sean Kirby. He's the co-founder and managing director at Giidjaa Industries. Giidjaa Industries is an Indigenous construction company. They link mining, tunneling, and construction companies with highly experienced personnel, and in particular from Indigenous backgrounds. It's an amazing company that is driving a lot of positive change and also creating opportunities for very talented individuals in the construction industry with a very good focus and positive change in the Indigenous communities. So before we get started, Sean, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So, like you said, my name's John Kirby, and I'm a proud Whale-One Nimbah man from Brewarrina, New South Wales, and I've got a background in civil engineering and financial accounting. I'm one of the co-founders and managing director of Giidjaa Industries. Like you just said, we aim to empower Indigenous talent and make positive impacts in the construction industry, in particular the mining, tunnelling and construction space. So that comes from linking Indigenous personnel with the right companies and vice versa to make sure that there's that right fit.
Absolutely. Definitely growing the construction industry, which has been growing in the past few years strongly in Australia. For those listeners that are outside of Australia, Giidjaa is an Australian company, and they have a main focus in providing employment opportunities, as we were saying, for Indigenous communities in Australia. In Australia, the Indigenous communities is quite big in comparison to other places in the world, if I'm not wrong. I think I was reading a recent stat that the population is close to 500,000.
Right.
So we're definitely going to be deep diving in understanding why it's so important to help this big community. And really, it's with immense joy that I witnessed the phenomenal growth of your company, Sean. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here. I know Sean for 2 years now, and I experienced the phenomenal growth that I was saying and the success of Giidjaa so far in these 2 years. I personally provided some HR support when at the early stages when you were launching your company.
Right.
The co-founders, it was only the three of them, and now we are with 50 employees and counting. They continue to grow, and it's a testament, of course, of your strong leadership, innovative approach, and focus on nurturing a talented workforce, but especially having such a positive impact in the Indigenous community in Australia. So, Sean, you have an amazing mission, and I know we have a lot to talk about. So how did you get started as a founder? How did Giidjaa Industry came to life?
I was one of the civil engineers who worked on one of the tunnelling projects up in Brisbane, and that's where I met my business partner, Nathan. And we went for a coffee together, and we sat down and we said, what do you feel? How do we feel about creating Indigenous employment opportunities, for my people? And Nathan says, look, I'm definitely on board, but let's finish this tunnel and let's do something together. So 2 years later, here we are. And for me, as an Indigenous person coming from First Nations community back home, for me as a civil engineer, I've had this experience now. It's my turn to give back to my community. And I felt as though being a civil engineer on a tunnelling site, I wasn't fulfilling my obligation to my people. And so that's when this opportunity came up to start a business with Nathan. I jumped at it because I feel like I can make a larger positive, social impact.
As an engineer in building the tunnels and improving the transport across Australia, there has been billion-dollar projects in the last decade, as we were saying before. But apart from that, also there is a big gap that the federal government have been trying to close the gap, and that is disadvantage that the community has. So I see how you are really wanting to ensure that you close that gap yourself and give back to your community. So we said it's 500,000 people, almost, but maybe they don't have access to education. So by not having an education that gives them the opportunities to employment, they struggle with accessing to housing as well, right?
Yes, that's exactly right, Pam.
Indigenous Australians have much lower employment rates than any other Australians. And the reason for
That's
that,
exactly right.
yes, includes lower levels of education, training and skills levels, poor health, living in very remote areas, or with lesser job opportunities.
And that's why it's so important as well for businesses, Indigenous businesses like mine, to be able to create those opportunities. One of the big things I tell my clients when I do meet with them for the initial conversations is when you employ an Indigenous business, or when you engage an Indigenous business and employ an Indigenous employee, you not only support the individual or that employee, you actually support the communities in which they come from. Indigenous people, First Nations people, they go home and spend money in their communities. So essentially, these companies in which we work for and the projects in which we work on, they don't even realize it, but they're actually fueling local Indigenous economies. We create those employment opportunities and they all work hand in hand. So then you get, employment, housing, health, they all work hand in hand, which means that we need to be able to tackle these issues as we go. One of the greatest advantages of engaging with Indigenous businesses is the fact that Indigenous businesses engage with other Indigenous businesses. So you're fueling that pipeline of Indigenous supply chain. And I think for tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 companies to engage an Indigenous business like mine, we also engage other Indigenous businesses. Also, there's that other full circle approach where you're fueling Indigenous economies.
Exactly. So you have a bigger reach, right?
That's right.
A very good, interesting point that you just mentioned is that by having access to job opportunities, they go and invest back in the community. So that I love how it really is more than just providing opportunities.
This holistic approach. It really is. It's a full cycle.
Absolutely.
It really is. And I'll keep coming back to this, but these projects and companies that we work for, they have no idea the impacts that they have on Indigenous communities when they do employ and engage Indigenous businesses.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. So that is good that you bring awareness. So then how do you help Indigenous communities to have that employment opportunity? How does Giidjaa help?
One of the main aims, one of the core arms of our business, actually. So we've got 3 arms to the business. We've got the trades arm. So that's where we deal with all the mechanical and electrical and the engineering and consultancy arms of the business. And then we've got the labor force, the workforce arm, which is Giidjaa Workforce. And then we've got the group training organization. So we found that when we first started the business, that we found it really hard to find qualified Indigenous tradespeople, so in the mechanical and electrical space. What Nathan and I sat down and put our heads together and we came up with the idea that, well, why don't we become a group training organization and start feeding the pipeline of Indigenous qualified tradespeople. So by creating this group training organization, we've now been able to place Indigenous electrical and mechanical apprentices across these tunneling projects. So then in 3 to 4 years' time, we're going to have this influx in the industry of Indigenous qualified tradespeople. So that's one of the ways in which we've looked at providing that support and also giving back to the community as well. And like I said, it's not even about money. It's about having those skills. So when you've got those skills and you've upskilled, they can go back to their community now and they've got those transferable skills that they can use in everyday life. And that's what we strive to do at Giidjaa.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's so good. You really tackle the main pain point of the Aboriginal community, that is having the access to the education. And is that a program that runs by a specific period of time or is ongoing? I imagine there is a lot of on-the-job training afterwards. Can you tell us a little bit more on how that training program works, how you upskill and provide the right skills to your new hires?
Yeah, so the group training organisation is the New South Wales Group Training Organisations, or GTO. We offer apprenticeships and traineeships to individuals seeking employment and training opportunities. So in particular, at the moment, we've got Cert 3 in civil construction trainees across one of the civil construction projects that we're working on, as well as mechanical and electrical apprentices placed throughout the tunnelling projects in Sydney at the moment. As apprentices and trainees complete their training and development obligations, they're employed and supported by Giidjaa. So Giidjaa is instrumental in creating opportunities for trade careers in the tunnelling, mining and construction industries through its apprenticeship and traineeship program. So upon successful completion of the pre-employment program that we put them through before they start on the projects, the trainees and apprentices are then placed with host employers. So the host employer is the projects in which we put them on. So they're essentially put out onto the projects on hire. And then that's the way we kickstart their careers. So then we coordinate with the Australian Apprenticeship Network. We then coordinate with the RTO to be able to do their certification and their theory component. So we essentially act as a support mechanism that drives their placement, their project work, and their theory component. And then at the end, we get really good qualified tradespeople. Which is
Nice. And then it's on the job experience that helps you continue growing.
That's exactly right. One of the big things that really stands out for us is that throughout their modules that they need to complete as part of their course is we don't just place our trainees and apprentices on projects and leave them. Because we are working across multiple projects in different facets or multiple projects on different jobs, we've got the power to then, if you need to develop a skill in another area for your module, we can then place you on different projects in order for you to get those skills.
Right. Rotation.
So that's what makes us, that's what sort of gives the trainee and apprentice the level of experience that's required for their traineeship. So we don't set and forget, we provide that level of support and we check in and do our weekly welfare checks and we do our monthly check-ins as well.
That's a brilliant idea. It's job rotation. So the good thing is you work for several clients in the construction industry, mining, as you were saying, so you can help the new trainee to rotate working in different projects.
Right.
And so they have more exposure to a bigger network, to different type of projects, and they can develop different skills, which is absolutely amazing. And on top of this, apart from the career growth and employment opportunities and the really helping them grow in the future, it's just that opportunity to connect with people, right? And one thing before we touch on that is, Sean, can you clarify for our listeners, can anyone participate in this traineeship or you have to have Indigenous background?
Yeah, one of the big things that I should have specified at the start was the fact that, yes, we tailor the business is an Indigenous business, but we also employ non-Indigenous people as well. We're very inclusive. We promote diversity and inclusivity within our work environment. So anyone over the age of 18 can apply to work with us.
And actually, we have to talk about the name, Giidjaa Industries. What is the meaning?
Yes, so we sat down one day when we were at a coffee, our first and, I think it was the third time Nathan and I caught up to talk about naming the business. Down and he said, well, what do you think we should do? And I was sitting there running through, names in my head. And I thought, no, we need to come up with an Aboriginal name, an Aboriginal word from my language. And the word was Giidjaa. Giidjaa meaning a little black ant in my language. Now, that's very befitting because our employees work in tunnels just like ants and they work as a group collective. So I think it's a great name.
It's definitely. I think it has a lot of meaning. Of course, you have a big focus on helping the Indigenous community. So you want to provide employment and training opportunities to Indigenous community, but also ensuring that they are included in the Australian workplace and with the Australian community.
Yeah, especially with Giidjaa meaning little black ant. I like to think of, if you look at a project from an aerial point of view, if you're in a helicopter and you look down at a project and you see all the little people walking, so it just makes sense. I just want to flood all the sites with little Giidjaa employees.
I love the name. I think it's a very good symbol of the hard worker, resilience, teamwork in the construction industry, like the ants, but also using the traditional Aboriginal language. And more in particular, Sean, what we were just saying before, and is that not only you provide employment opportunities to many Australians, in particular, trying and closing the gap for the Indigenous Australian community, but also your mission on fostering the inclusivity and creating that pathway for these individuals to not only thrive in what it is the workplace, but also in the society at large. So the fact that you have a main focus on always ensuring that your workforce is formed with Indigenous people, but also the opportunities that you provide for them to integrate with the society, in not only by working with Giidjaa, but also in all the other projects.
The way I see it is it's a bonus. When you employ an Indigenous employee, you've got experience and skills that come with it. So I think, we're a construction company, but you've got the bonus of working with Indigenous people or an Indigenous construction company. So the Indigenous component to our business is a bonus. We offer a premium service and you get to engage with Indigenous people as well.
Fantastic. And how do you achieve this? So before you were saying you have some tailored recruitment strategies as well. Then you provide the right development and training. And something very important is the awareness training, in that sense that the conversation starts with future clients or project directors, but also how do you bring that cultural awareness for the rest of your team members?
So yeah, a lot of the clients that we work with have Indigenous inclusion managers that work a part of the teams. So I would engage directly with them from an Indigenous stakeholder engagement perspective. And these companies have strategies put in place to promote awareness of Indigenous inclusivity and participation within the business. And so I think for a lot of these companies that we work for, it's mandatory for the employees to undergo cultural awareness training before engaging with Indigenous businesses and also before engaging with Indigenous team members. Right. So this enables that level of not only inclusivity, but that level of understanding of dealing with Indigenous people and understanding who they are and where they come from.
Okay, Sean, so that's great that you're not alone. There is an openness on bridging that gap, correct? And there is a big plan in Australia. Yep. The Closing Gap is a national strategy. The mission is to reduce the Indigenous disadvantages, and this is with life expectancy, child mortality, access to education and employment. So
when they undergo cultural awareness training, they gain, a deeper understanding or an increased understanding of Indigenous people. Because, Indigenous people have a lot of knowledge that they can share as well.
Exactly. So on one hand, we have the collaboration among different employers in the area, the training opportunity provided to increase cultural awareness.
The main takeaway, Pam, would be, they'd have a deeper understanding of Aboriginal identity or First Nation identity and history, the behavioural styles of Aboriginal people, the history of Aboriginal culture and the respect that comes with it, and the skills. You're given the skills in these cultural awareness trainings to be able to communicate with Indigenous people as well.
Well, and this is a good point, right? Like, apart from bridging that awareness gap with training, providing the training and understanding, let's talk about a bit the culture. What type of culture in your business you are embracing, and how do you ensure these values are embedded in your company culture?
Nathan and I, and our supervisors that work with us as well, we'd like to foster a supportive and inclusive work environment. We don't care what background you come from. So we prioritise open communication, active listening, and continuous feedback. We love constructive criticism, and we love able to be able to better ourselves and better the company for the betterment of the company as well. So we like to empower our team members, to take ownership of their roles, to give them that sense of ownership of their roles, and also encourage personal and professional growth. And we believe trust is essential, and we ensure that everyone's contributions are valued and recognised. And Nathan and I, being a lot younger than other management in other companies, we bring that extra excitement, and we want people to come to work and to enjoy work. We spend more time with each other at work with our employees than we do with our family members. So, it's a family home, and that's the environment we strive and want to create.
Yeah, and people feeling comfortable coming to work and making friendships, why not, and learning from each other. Yeah, good time while doing.
That's exactly right.
That's great. And how do you manage your team successfully, your people successfully? You grow from the co-founders to 50 employees that you're now and counting. I know there are some good opportunities on the pipeline, but how do you manage your team successfully?
I think from the start, we really made sure that we set our foundations correctly from a business perspective. So we made sure we had all of our processes and procedures in place before we were able to go to the next level and scale as a business. And, as we scale, we still see holes and gaps in processes, but we're able to clog those really quickly. And you know what, Pam? That's when you started that with us.
That's true. That's one of the first things I was quite impressed that you were wanting to put some structure in terms of what are the policies that we need, what is the right induction. Those were the things that were worked on even before you started to hire. And that's fantastic. That talks about that tidy approach that you guys believe that is very important, because if you provide a good framework, and good systems, and people can become productive more easily, they're not wasting time on reworking and fixing. Of course, the challenges of the growth and new projects and more people coming on board, but at least you were very clear on building a solid foundations from the start. And I'm a witness of that. Absolutely, Sean. How do you motivate and engage employees?
So employee motivation and engagement at Giidjaa are at the heart of what we do, and the people are at the heart of what we do. One of the things is, we offer competitive wages, we guarantee work, and there are opportunities for upskilling and career advancement. And we also like to celebrate the achievements, whether big or small, along the way. One of the biggest things that we do at Giidjaa is we recognize hard work and foster, a sense of belonging within our company. And I believe that that's what really engages our employees as well. And if we don't live by our core values as owners of the business, how are our employees expected to do so? So by us living by it as a business, then, that's enough to even motivate and engage our employees alone.
Sounds like a fantastic workplace and culture. And most importantly, it's always that reflection on life is complex and projects are complex, especially engineering, tunneling, I know very well. However, in their challenges, budget constraints, or anything that could be macroeconomic situations. But I think it comes down to the simplicity of the day-to-day enjoyment of work and building good relationships at work and making your people feel trusted, feel comfortable. And that's it, right? Like in having the right processes in place so people do not get stuck and waste time and rework, and making sure you're listening to your people and providing that support. So I'm totally aligned with what you're saying, Sean. I've seen the growth in the last 2 years from 0 to thinking on the name to now 50 employees. And I know that you have...
It's a big thanks to your support,
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah, but I think, Sean, you have an exciting developments and future plans that we can look forward at Giidjaa. And any exclusive insights you can share with our listeners? What projects are you guys currently working on? What's coming next?
I guess my advice would be to prioritize diversity and inclusivity within the workplace. Building a team of individuals from diverse backgrounds and experiences brings fresh perspectives, and I'll say the word again, fosters innovation. So nurturing a positive and supportive workplace culture is equally important. So when everyone feels valued, and I've mentioned this in the last section, when everyone feels valued and respected, they're more motivated to contribute at their best and work at their best level.
Yeah. And Sean, what are your most pressing challenges right now?
One of the most pressing challenges for us right now is ensuring that we continue to attract and retain top talent in this highly competitive construction industry at the moment. It's employees market, which is great for employees, but super difficult for businesses and small businesses like us that are competing in this space. And, we'll still stay true to our colours. We're dedicated to hiring Indigenous talent and promoting diversity. And I think it's essential to strike a balance between fulfilling our mission and meeting the specific skill requirements of our clients, and making sure that we're delivering at that premium, that high level that we said we'd set out to do. So we're working on strategies around this at the moment, but we're looking at employee retention and trying to keep employees happy.
And you have a beautiful company, and I think many people would love to join Giidjaa Industries. And Sean, can you tell us what are the exciting projects that Giidjaa has been working until the date, and what's in the future pipeline for you guys?
Yeah, we're super excited at the moment. So we've had the opportunity to actually complete a few projects to date as well. So we worked for Aquatic Engineering on a John Holland job down at Hobson Bay in Melbourne, doing the fabrication, installation of water treatment plant down there. So we had a very exciting opportunity. That was one of our very first jobs, actually. And then we had an opportunity to work on Brisbane Metro for Acciona as well, yes, and Aquatic Engineering. And also CPB contractors on the Western Sydney Airport and the 9 stations, working on water treatment plants and general electrical scopes across those projects as well. We've also got a great partnership with Gamuda Lango-Rook Consortium. So we've got the electrical, mechanical and trainees placed out at their precast facility out at Eastern Creek. And then we've got shift coverage, electrical shift coverage across a few of their tunnelling projects as well. Gradient are another one as well. So Gradient gave us the opportunity to do our first supply and install job, our very own water treatment plants to supply and install as well for Gamuda Lango-Rook projects, as well as the Roselle interchange job. And then we've just secured a lot of work with the Eastern Tunnelling package as well through John Holland, CPB in Geller. So we're super excited there as well. And not only that, we've got a whole heap of work in the pipeline as well. So do a joint venture with CT Engineering based out of Brisbane. So they're a large engineering compliance and testing company as well. And they're their own, they've got an RTO, which will then also complement the group training organisation to our business. So then we can engage them to do the training component as well. So yeah, we're super excited about what's the projects we're working on, and super excited about hopefully winning a few more tenders.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Now, congratulations on what you've done and achieved so far. For those listening, these very big construction companies, global and local, Sean mentioned just a few, and that's quite a long list of great construction companies working in different transport projects. I actually personally met Nathan and then Sean when I was working for Geller. And at the time, we were building the Cross River Rail. This is the metro, the new metro in Brisbane. And we have also built a metro here in Sydney. So it's very fascinating projects. You know, it's projects that take around 4 to 5 years, and if no longer. It's quite fascinating to see from nothing to something so big in both Brisbane and Sydney. Also, the construction of the Eastern Airport and the new motorway. So there's a lot happening in the transport industry in Australia. It's great that you guys are involved in many of them, very well known. Congratulations.
We were very lucky. Sometimes we have to pinch ourselves, Pam, because a lot of small businesses like ours never get the opportunity to be able to work direct with tier 1 contractors like the CPBs of the world, the John Hollands of the world, the Accionas of the world, Ellers of the world. So it's a bit of a pinch me moment, but at the same time, we consider ourselves very, very lucky. And these companies, they look after us and ensure that you know, it's more of a partnership than it is business arrangement. They really support us with being able to build our capacity and our capability as a business.
Yes, absolutely. And not only lucky, but well-deserved as well. So proud of Giidjaa. Really looking forward to continue listening and learning about your growth opportunities and the growth of your company and the positive, amazing impact that you are having in the Australian community in all senses. Yeah. Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. It's an honor to be partnering with you as well and seeing the growth. It's been a great conversation and all the best. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Pam. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day, Sean.
Good one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the People Relations Podcast. We hope that today's discussion helps you find new ways to make better people decisions within your business. For additional insights and resources, remember to visit our website at peoplerelations.com.au. If you found value in this episode, please like and share the show with your friends who are dedicated to running and growing their businesses. We can't wait to have you back next time for more great conversations. Until then, take care and see you soon.